It looks like we are live here. Marco Romeo coming in from Ocean City, Maryland, with the man himself, voted worst Baltimore Orioles Twitter account, Eric Artitti. How's it going, man?
It's going. It's going. Yeah, we talked about it before we got on. That was a nice little Monday surprise. Not what I was expecting. That's usually like a Friday thing. That's not usually how I start my weeks. But yeah, it was. It's always nice to be recognized, I guess.
Hey, I think someone said I'd rather be hatefully remembered than peacefully forgotten, right? So I mean, there you go.
I got
I
the
will say, yeah,
somebody
for
was
those of
sending
you
me
who don't know,
the Pete Weber like hate me or love me you watched or whatever. So I was like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's spot on.
I will say for those of you who don't know him, obviously great content. So you want to promote, I guess, some of your stuff, the podcast that you do, your Twitter handle, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter at EDITTI22. Podcast is at Exit 52 Podcast. And we just do a variety of Baltimore, Maryland, pop culture kind of stuff and Terps, Orioles, Ravens, all that good stuff. So yeah, shoot me a follow if you haven't already. If you decide that I live up to the billing of the worst Orioles fan, then you can feel free to unfollow, and I completely understand.
You've been down in Ocean City at all this summer?
Not this summer, huh? We went a couple, or well, we usually go to Dewey, Rehoboth, or Bethany the last couple years, but no, I haven't been. I've been meaning to take my daughter for like a weekend trip or just a day trip, but the weekends have gotten packed and as the summer calendar is slowly slipping away, so I don't know if I'll be able to make it happen or not this year, but we'll see.
For those non-Marylanders, Dewey Beach is debauchery essentially. So always come down to Dewey Beach if you want to get some partying, and if you're not a Marylander. But yeah, man, appreciate the time. We'll get right into it here. So obviously, slightly sort of big news in baseball. Kind of over the weekend with Thursday with the trade deadline, and as you and I discussed, I didn't see anyone jumping off high buildings or the warehouse or any bridges in Baltimore, despite some of the reactions on Twitter. Obviously, I know you and I kind of feel the same way with this deadline, but just I guess overall thoughts for you, like any surprise moves, like maybe move that you like the best, move that you kind of scratching your head out, just overall thoughts about the deadline.
I would say the one that surprised me, Ramon Urias surprised me. I think what was that Wednesday night, before the deadline really got cooking, just because he was under team control. Again, I wasn't. I know there had been like rumblings earlier in the year when the Orioles obviously started out bad, like, oh, this team needs a third baseman, this team needs a third baseman, and again, I mean, he seemed to be about as clutch as they come, and he plays Gold Glove defense. So it's not a shock that somebody traded for him. I think it was more of a shock that the Astros traded for him and then went and traded for Correa, who is also going to play third. So that one was a little surprising. Laureano too, just because he was, like you said, he had a $6.5 million option for next year. I would have loved to keep him. I thought he would have been a fantastic person to have next year. I completely understand why they did it. I think if you're going to sell like that, you have to go all in and sell everyone. You can't like pick and choose, like, oh, we need to hold this guy, but trade that guy. Like, no, I think if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So again, it sucked, but that's, like you said, we're not, this is nothing new to us. Like, we've seen these kind of teardowns before. I mean, it was 6, 7, 8 years ago when we saw it with Manny and Scope and O'Day and Britton and Gosman and all those guys. But yeah, it sucks. And I think you can point to the front office, and just like Elias said the other day where he apologized, but the front office and, how they handled the offseason, and that's why they are where they are. That coupled with injuries and that's exactly why they're in this position right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on Laureano. Just kind of that was the most surprising to me. But to Elias's point with Brian Baker, it's like if you get a deal that you can't turn down. I mean, I thought the haul that we got from San Diego. Now it's so weird because NFL wise, I'm a first round picks or a lottery pick, right? Like, why would you trade or people overvalue first round picks? Baseball, I think it's completely different because of the development that you could get in there, and just the overall haul of prospects. Odds will tell you that 50% of them are going to make it, 50% of them might not. So if you get 16, 8 will probably make it. So to get a guy like Bateman in there after they had just traded away, like, I think every single other prospect that they had for that haul, it makes sense to throw Laureano in there, but I'll miss his bros. And he is the kind of guy, I think, when you assemble a championship team, that is that guy that is that impact player that's the glue on that championship team. But who's to say that he doesn't opt out and maybe they bring him back? But yeah, he'll be missed. But like you said, that's business as usual there. So, uh, what move do you think, I guess, was the best or the best return? Or hey, I'm kind of surprised that we got this player, whether more or less than you thought for any player that we gave up.
I would say I'm with you on the San Diego trade. Again, I think O'Hearn and Laureano bringing back 6 guys. Again, I don't have all their names in front of me. I know they're all great baseball names, but
A lot of white guy names.
Yeah, yes. But again, anytime you can get, 6 guys like that, and what did they get? The second, third, and fourth round pick in the 2024 draft from the Padres. I thought that was great. And again, my guess is they had to throw Laureano in there to probably get 3 or 4 of those guys. Again, O'Hearn's on an expiring contract. San Diego has already fractured their entire, farm system. So I think they needed, another piece in there that they could bring back next year in order to ship away those other guys with the controllable years. So I think, again, anytime you can get 6 players for 2 guys who may or may not have been there next year. I know they're talking about maybe trying to get O'Hearn back next year, which would be fantastic if you could get him back and have all those guys. But yeah, I think that has to be the crown jewel. It seems like people all around baseball really like it too. Again, not just, Baltimore writers and all that, the national writers, were like, oh, this is a good haul. And I even got some DMs from some Padres folks saying the same thing. Like, oh, you're going to love these guys, or really, this guy has this, or, what's the guy who's 6'7"? Is that Butterworth or whatever? The 6'7" lefty, like
Boston Bateman is like something like that too.
Yeah, that's the guy, Boston Bateman. Yeah, again, all their names sound identical. But yeah, anytime you can get somebody like that, I think they now have 3 lefty pitchers who are 6'7" or taller. So I don't know if they're building like tight end, like they're building like a tight end room, or they're just getting some pitchers. So, but I think that has to be the haul that I like the most. Again, it's obviously way too early to tell, but just based on projecting in the future, I think that's easily number one.
So a lot of people were freaking out too about how, Elias said, hey, we're still going to try to win in 2026. But if you look at it, they didn't trade Holiday, they didn't trade Gunnar, they didn't trade Adley. The so-called core, and you get, essentially Bradish coming back. We knew Grayson wasn't going to come back, but you're getting Wells back in some capacity. Big Al coming back into possibly a long relief role, which he's good in. I mean, talk about, like, I guess just on paper, obviously there will be additions made with it, but do you think that this is a sign that this team can't compete in 2026? Obviously, off season aside, what they do, but just based on what we have kind of returning, would you be surprised if this team, with the right pieces, was able to contend for either the division or a wild card next year?
No, I think they're going to be right there. Again, as long as they stay healthy, that's the big thing. Knock on wood and do all that stuff. But if they stay healthy, as Adley ropes another double, but like you said, they didn't trade anyone from the core. Maybe 2 of the guys were going to be on the team next year, in the Ramon brothers. But everybody else, they weren't going to be on the team next year. So it's not like they lost, like, oh man, we were going to count on X player for next year. Like you said, Gunnar, Kauser, Jackson, Westberg, Adley, like Mayo, all these guys, they're all going to be there. That's a very good, again, if we beat the term into the ground, but the young core, that's a very good core to have. And like you said, if we can just plug in, Tyler, we make fun of the guy, but Tyler O'Neill, if he stays healthy next year, if he can play in 120 games, he can hit 25 or 30 home runs and we'll be okay. But you plug him in, you add these other complementary pieces, some veterans maybe throughout the lineup. And again, they're going to have to add 2, maybe 3 pitchers, as Tyler O'Neill, smokes one. Holy crap. But again, if they sign these guys, and that's where it comes into play. Whereas, like, now you have all these new names and arms and all that good stuff to play with for next year. You can trade those prospects. We may never see any single one of these prospects suit up because, ideally, you trade them, you package them, and you trade them because. Again, you don't have to tell Baltimore folks. We know that prospects may not work out. Like, we've seen the Matt Hopgoods. We've seen Matt Ryan. Over and over and over. We're seeing it with Heston Kjerstad right now. They're prospects for a reason. So I do like, and again, this is kind of going off topic, but I like what San Diego does with the, like, fuck it. It's very Rams-ish. Like, we don't need a first round pick. Let's just,
Right.
let's trade that for, because again, what you're getting in actual MLB talent. So if Elias is willing to trade some of these arms and some of these prospects to supplement guys in the rotation for next year, I mean, I think they have to do that, and I think they will do that. I think their backs are against the wall. I think they're backed into a corner. I think this was a slap in the face season type for them, and they're like, oh crap, maybe we're not as close as we thought we were, and we're gonna have to see them do that. But yeah, I could easily see them being right in the mix with things next year. Who knows also what the rest of the division looks like next year? Who knows what the Judge could get Tommy John tomorrow, and then
I think he will. Yeah.
I think they're delaying the inevitable. We've seen this over and over, and again, this is a topic for another day. But how many times did we? I mean, we just saw it with Grayson. We saw it with not Tommy John, but we see it with guys all the time where it's like, oh, rest, rehab, PRP, do this, do that. Oh, he's going to rest again. Oh, no, Tommy John. So
right.
I don't know, but yeah, I could easily see them. I think they are still in a very good position, and they set themselves up for the future. And even though it sucks that we're having the year that they're having this year, this kind of lessens the blow that with what they were able to do and the position that they put themselves in for next year.
Well, you mentioned Tyler O'Neill, and he's 2-1 right now as a under 9.5 better here. So stop scoring, but yeah. Well, we need him to miss at least 40 games so you could do your general soreness postings. Tyler O'Neill.
I'm tweeting it right now.
Who came up with that name, by the way? Because that's gold.
I don't know. I don't know if somebody tweeted it to me. I just saw it floating around, and I was like, oh, I could get that. It was after that one day that he missed with general soreness.
Yeah.
It's like, I could get down with this. This is a fun, it's a little mocking of him, but you got to be able to laugh at yourself and have some fun. So,
well, years ago, I don't know if you remember a certain radio host calling Nelson Cruz La Policia. That was your boy over here who thought of that. My buddy made a meme. I'm like, hey, if Chris Davis is the deputy, Cruz has to be the policeman, and obviously La Policia. So I never got the credit for that, but I'm not bitter about it. But that was an awesome nickname as well too. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, man. This is how things are built, right? Like, you obviously can't trade for players if you don't have players in return that people are going to want, right? So getting these guys in, I'm fine with him stockpiling and then trading them out. Like, this is the Houston model to a degree. I mean, San Diego's been doing things the way they did, and I just put a future on them to win the World Series at like plus 1,700. But if they don't, that's obviously not the model, right? Now they've won more playoff games than the Orioles recently, but there's there's no exact science for it. You just need your guys to develop, and then you got to supplement them coming in. So I guess, coming into the rest of this year, obviously we know we want to see a couple people coming up and, a couple debuts. But what are you looking at or looking forward to for the rest of this year that will get you kind of confidence heading into 2026, that this team could, with a couple supplemental pieces, maybe they're not as far off, like what will give you confidence, like, hey, 2026, the Orioles could win the American League East?
I'd like to see a strong finish from guys like Cowser and Jackson. And there's guys who, again, have had kind of up and down years. Obviously, Cowser is hurt, and he's had the broken hand, the broken thumb. So yeah, I'm kind of giving him a pass on this year. It's just been a weird, last 6-7 months for him. I would like to see him finish strong. I think he has all the tools to be an all-star player. Again, guy who was arguably robbed of Rookie of the Year last year. I mean, he's as talented as anyone on the team. So I would like to see guys like him. Same thing with Mayo, obviously. And they seem to really be doing that, playing him. He's playing pretty much every day. And I know, obviously, Orioles Twitter went through that. Like, anytime he was out, it was like people were ripping their hair out. It's like, I would just like to see him get the most out of his at-bats. And again, he just roped a single too the other way. But I would like to see strong finishes from the young guys. And that includes a Dylan Beavers. If and when he eventually comes up, I'm guessing him and Basayo will both be up within 2 weeks. Again, and bitch and moan all you want about it, but they're not going to waste, spend or kill a year of service time just for 2 weeks of at bats to let these guys come up in what's a lost season. So any of the young guys, same thing. Povich, I would love to see Povich, finish this year strong. He had some flashes early on, and then he got hurt and he missed it was a decent amount of time. I just want to see him play good baseball too, not making boneheaded mistakes on the base paths. in the field. I know we've seen Jackson make a couple, not Holiday, but what's his name in right field? He's he had a Wrigley's tough, I get it, but he had some bad ones this weekend. So I not looking like the Yankees running the bases and booting the ball around, stuff like that. But yeah, I think just a strong finish from the young guys, because I think, if Adley hit 300 from here on out, I think that would kind of temper a lot of people, save us from a lot of off-season conversations that will be brought up about him. But yeah, that's what I want. I just want to see the guys finish strong and, run 2011 back, end somebody's season, be a spoiler. And we've seen that. Obviously they've played much better baseball the last couple months, but it's too little too late. They dug that hole. But hey, go be a spoiler, go piss somebody off and keep them out of the playoffs. That's kind of all I want to see.
This offense has the potential to do that too. I mean, they could get hot. Think about how no one's been hot at the same time, right? And when they do, they could. No one down the stretch wants to play the Orioles. I can guarantee you that. And you're reading the script a little bit ahead of time on my thoughts on Adley. I'll get into that. I know that's your boy, and it's going to be a very unpopular opinion on my end. But I guess also talk a little bit about Brandon Young. I mean, he's been actually, after a couple horrific starts, the guy's been pretty good. Is he a person who, obviously we're not confident with just him in the rotation, but is he a guy who, if we don't go out and get that front line started, because quite frankly, paying for pitching, look at the guys that were out there, Evaldi, they've all kind of missed some time in there outside of trading for Garrett Crochet, but free agent pitchers can get hurt like that. So if you could develop some, has Young showed you enough, or I guess if he keeps this up at the end of the year, that you are fine slotting him into the back of the rotation?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, again, he's a guy very early on in his starts. It seems like it's oh crap, here we go again. And there's constant traffic on the base paths, and he very rarely, it seems like, has a clean inning. And if he does, it's an immaculate inning. But he has impressed me, even like yesterday. I think a couple guys on, another guy scores, and then you get the Jackson to Jackson relay, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. This is another kind of Brandon Young outing, and he settled down from there, and he did well. So yeah, I could definitely see them going into it with him as the 5. Again, maybe he's a long man. Maybe he can be an arm in the bullpen like that, like a Suarez was, until he kind of gets his footing. But like you said, it all kind of depends on if they make trades, if they make signings and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's he has slowly progressed, and he hasn't looked as bad as I thought he would. I don't know, for some reason I just I wasn't a fan, and every time he started, I was like, this is it, here we go again. It's Groundhog Day. But somebody said the other day, they were like, you're just a hater on him, and I'm like, I don't think I'm a hater. He just hasn't shown me much. And I was like, listen, he's on my favorite team. I hope I'm wrong. I want to eat crow. I want to be wrong here. I'm just saying what I feel about it. So yeah, I could see him coming in as 4 or 5, somewhere around there, and getting a couple starts and seeing what he can do. So he has looked much better. And again, it's kind of crazy to crap on a guy through 5 starts in the big leagues, be like, oh, this guy sucks. It's well, big leagues are hard. It's very hard to be good. So yeah, it's maybe I should kind of pump the brakes there before I'm the judge, jury, and executioner on some of these young pitchers.
Well, before we get into the extend, trade, or sign game that we play, just I guess one piece too, that when we trade away all the relievers and everyone's like, who's going to be in there? I personally think relief pitching, while the deadline tells you otherwise, because look at the value that they got back from contending teams, I also think it's the easiest position to find and replace. I mean, no one heard of Colomb, no one heard of Webb, and as much as we made fun of Fuji, he had some big outs for this team, and Cano was great until he wasn't, right? So Elias has shown he can get relievers out of nowhere. I mean, is that a spot that you're worried about at all with this team, provided Felix comes back healthy, which I think could also be another discussion? But are you worried about the bullpen at all, or replacing them with arms to make the bullpen at least serviceable?
No, I'm right there with you. I think that is the easiest thing to rebuild. Again, you name the guys. I mean, CNL Perez came out of nowhere. He was, waiver claim. They made Austin Voth a really good pitcher for a year, close to a year. So yeah, if this front office and team, and the quote pitching lab, if they've shown something, it's that they can find relievers. Look at Brian, again, you named it, Brian Baker. All these guys were really no ones. Colomb, Webb, even Felix to
Dominguez improved. Yeah.
Dominguez was awesome at the end. But again, Felix couldn't throw a strike. He could throw at 150 miles an hour. But if you look at his walk numbers when he was in the minors, I mean, there was a reason he had almost left baseball. So there was, they can find guys. They're kind of like running backs too. Like in the NFL, you'll find a guy in the NFL to rush for 1,000 yards for you. Like you can find it. You can find good relievers and turn them into stuff. And again, especially the way, I don't know, whatever it is about this Orioles, the pitching lab and what they've seemed to do. I mean, they kind of know what they're doing. So it would be nice to go out and get, build your bullpen out of all names that you guys know and the big, FU fastballs and stuff like that. But I have complete faith in them to go out and find guys to plug them in and get them in there. Like you said, Tyler Wells is a name that he could be in there, and Suarez, and there's a couple guys who are already going to be in there. Aiken, besides the walk-off the other day, he's looked, pretty good this year for the last couple of years, kind of. But yeah, I got no issues with where the bullpen is now and what they're going to do to rebuild it. And I think they're going to do a good job of, filling those roles.
The fact that you flipped Soto and Dominguez for prospects that could end up coming up, I mean, it just shows you that's the exact kind of trades you need to make. You develop the bullpen and get them good. If you're not contending, you trade them. So the fact that people are freaking out over the bullpen arms, that should be the least of the concern here. But
I was going to say the fact that they got living, breathing people for Soto is crazy. Like that's a win in itself. I don't care where they start or how old they are or whatever their stats are. Like you got multiple people for Gregory Soto. Like that's very, very good. But I'm right there with you. This is the blueprint. Like holding on to Sir Anthony Dominguez is going to do what? What is he going to win one game for them the rest of the no, you trade those guys 10 times out of 10. And then, what do you know? You get this guy who I think was that the guy that they just promoted to AAA or double, somebody they moved up. But the guy who's throwing 104, you kidding me? I know he may need Tommy John eventually. I don't know what his injury history is, but yeah, you do that. You do those moves every single day, every day, 100%.
And we got that guy Woods, the AA pitcher from the Blue Jays, who could, start maybe in AAA and be a September call up there. So you get a starter out of trading a Dominguez. I mean, that's kind of. Can't ask for anything better than that. So
no, absolutely.
We'll play a little game here. I'm going to start with kind of my thoughts on why Adley should be traded. Okay, and just hear me out. No bias here.
I'm hearing.
Okay, but we're going to play a game after that called Extend, Trade, or Let Walk, and I'm going to give you some players, and you let me know what you would do, and then what you think the Orioles are going to do. But I was on. Was following a guy, the Ball Cap Sports guy. I forget his name, but he was going over the trade deadline stuff, and I had tweeted on there. I think you actively need to shop Adley. And I ran out of characters and I couldn't really explain why on there. But, hear me out on this. Okay, he's going to be 28 at the start of the season, right? Like, yes, he's kind of raking now, but I think we've seen – I don't think it – like, people are like his value is never going to be lower. But I think it's not like his value is going to get exponentially higher. Like, people know Adley. They've seen him at his top. He's not going to start contending for MVP, right? We know he's not going to be a catcher long term. I mean, you just drafted the guy from Coastal Carolina to essentially replace him. Basayo is going to be playing first, but you have multiple catchers in the organization now. And it's like, outside of being the number one pick, like what does Adley do great where it makes him untradeable? If he's not going to sign long term, I mean, we know he's going to test free agency as a Boris client.
He's not a Boris guy.
Oh, he's not a Boris guy?
No, okay. He's not one of them.
But do you think he'll test free? I mean, do you think he'll test free agency here? And it's like, is he worth signing to a 10-year deal when the last however many years of that, he's obviously going to be, if he's playing first or DHing, he's a downgrade at those positions for what you could get for him or in place of him at those positions. Just, I guess, overall thoughts on that. Am I crazy or does that make a little bit of sense?
No, I mean, I don't think you're crazy at all. Again, I wouldn't trade him just because, again, like you just said, Basayo I don't think he is a major league catcher, long-term at least. Again, the kid, what's his name, Bodine or whatever, who they got from Coastal. Again, I mean, he's like we talked about. He's a prospect. We really don't know. I think he won the best catcher in college. I don't know what that award's called or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I think he was hurt last year. I think that when he got that ball fouled off his hand, I think he was hurt. I think he did not want to use that as an excuse. And obviously, I mean, we've seen him play MVP type baseball where he is as red hot as they come, and he's hitting from both sides of the plate. And he's doing all that. I also don't think, like, if they trade him, I don't think they're going to get anything it's I don't know. I don't even know how to word it. I just don't think they're going to be able to be like, oh, we're going to get a haul for Adley. Because again, if the Orioles are like, well, he's not that good, we can trade him now. I think teams are also going to say that. And there's my Westberg home run. Sorry.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I obviously would hold on to him. I think you can still re-sign him. I don't think it has to be a 10-year deal. Again, if he's his, you're not going to sign him to a 10-year, till through his year 28 or 38 season or whatever. But I don't know. I would obviously take this thing up into. I would try and re-sign him now. Like you said, his play has been down. He's rebounded a little bit since he's come back. And I would try and get him on a cheaper deal. I do think he wants to be here. I think he wants to be with these guys and the team and all that. And I think he's comfortable here. I'm also thinking like, where else would he want to go if he wants to go back to Seattle? They've got a catcher who I think they just locked up long term.
Yeah, so, the big dumper. Yeah, great nickname.
So and I'm sure he'll eventually move to first as all the good catchers are. It seems like they're doing, but no, I don't know. Again, I mean, I'm always in the keep Adley camp. I fully understand why people are would want to move him. I think they're. I don't know if they're close to unlocking him, but I think it is possible to see him. Not, maybe not be an MVP candidate, but still be a top 4 or 5 catcher in baseball and a guy that people want to come here to play with. And I think he can be a great leader, especially with the guys around him and in this clubhouse. And I think the city likes him. I think he like I said, he enjoys the city and I don't know. I kind of just want to keep him for selfish reasons. I think he would be a fun guy to have around,
There was a certain video 2 years ago of 2 Baltimore guys debating on who's running the city between you and Adley. So I kind of, if he leaves, obviously then it's your city. But up until then, we'll just call it Adley's. But yeah, to touch on the hurt point too. I mean, that's also part of my thing. So now you have a catcher who's been hurt twice. He's 28. He'll be 28. That's the problem with these college guys. If they don't come up in a year or two, it's like when you come up. Like, look at Bobby Witt. How old is he now? 21, 22? I mean, Gunner's 4 years younger. You're prioritizing Gunner over Adley all day, every day, in my opinion. But, yeah, so we'll go – I'll give you a couple players. You tell me, A, what you would do as far as, like, extend, trade. You could even put, like, sign to, like, a one-year deal or whatever, or let walk. And then tell me what you think the Orioles will do with him, okay? So I'll start with a guy who's been a pleasant surprise, despite the fact that the guy we traded for him is absolutely raking, but that would be Trevor Rogers. I believe he has one more year of control, right, and then becomes a free agent. What would you do with him? And what do you think the Orioles will do?
I would extend him. I think the Orioles, we talk a lot about like, oh, we got to get some of these young guys extended. Why not Rogers? Like, why would, I think the Orioles should absolutely right now, maybe in the offseason or something, but I would sign him. I hope the Orioles are looking at an extension, and I think that's a no-brainer. Again, I mean, I think we talked about the pitching lab and the things that they can do to these guys. And again, we've seen what he could do in the past, be an all-star. We've seen him at his worst. We've seen him, he had an awful start last year, and then he gets hurt, and everyone, myself included, was ready to kick him to the curb. And all he's done is like an ERA under 2, like a 180 ERA or something like that. So I'm in the extend him. I surely hope the Orioles are too. I don't think that they're looking to trade him. I think obviously if they were going to trade him, it would have been last week when his ceiling again. I mean, it's if it gets higher than this, then we've got a very good problem on our hands. Yeah. But I think if they were going to trade him, it was going to be last week, and unless they were getting a haul for him, they weren't going to do that. And so I think they should at least look at extending him and see making him a part of the future here.
It's funny because when people hear the other players I'm going to be named, I think I agree with you 100%. I think Rogers is a no-brainer. I think he'll get done before the rest of the players that I get named here, and I think that'll be the Orioles' number 1 priority. But what a difference 3 months makes after I name some of these other players, and both you and I and everyone who's watching this will probably be like, you know what, Rogers does make the most sense here. And it's like, they were ready to crucify Mike for that. So, okay, now here's an interesting one that I kind of thought about, and I do think he's going to end up missing some time next year, which then is kind of more of a cause for concern to me. And he's also 30 years old. Felix Bautista, I think free agent eligible in 2028. So. He's arbitration eligible now. What do you think the Orioles do with him, and what would you do with him?
I would have looked, if he hadn't gotten hurt, I would have been very okay with the Orioles trading him. I wasn't like standing on a table being like, you got to trade him. But I think if somebody came to them and said, hey, we'll give you, I don't know, blah, blah, and blah for him, I think you got to go, yeah. And just because of the conversation we just had, you can find these guys anywhere. That you can find them. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when like each team, you maybe saw one guy on each team throw 100. Now half the bullpen rolls out of bed and throws 100. Like that's not a thing. It's not like, obviously Mason Miller. Yeah, that's awesome. He's on a different level. But again, the Orioles just traded a guy for a guy in Double-A who throws 104. Like you can find these guys. That's perfectly fine. So I'm good with. I wouldn't extend him just because again now we're on 2 major shoulder elbow surgeries. He is up there. I mean, the guy's LeBron James size and he throws 100 miles an hour. Like your body is not meant to do that. So at some point it's going to break down even further and it's not going to be a good ending, I would assume. But I would look to trade him. Maybe sometime next year. I don't know. Cause again, like if they're winning next year and he's your closer, then obviously you keep him. But I wouldn't think that he's an extension candidate. If it is, it's like, 1 year, 10 million, I don't know, 12 million, something like that, but you're not breaking the bank, 4 years, 55 million or 60 million, something like that. I think the Orioles will move him if the price is right. Obviously the injuries hurt him and cause like you said, now you probably aren't going to get the big haul that you thought you once could get for him just because he's kind of damaged goods, but I guess that all depends on how he rebounds and what happens when he comes back.
I think that, I actually think that as long as he doesn't require surgery on the shoulder, even if he's rehabbing, I think they could look to move him at the winter meetings or if he does get off to that start. I think the Orioles are going to make a sneaky like relief pitcher signing that's got some closing experience. We're going to be like, kind of who's this guy? But it was like the writing on the wall of Floriano. Like I remember Rock tweeting, they're not bringing in this guy and giving him a club option for him to not get significant playing time. So there will be a deal with a reliever where you're like, we signed him to what? And then that'll kind of be Felix's supplement replacement there. So I definitely was a proponent of dealing him to him. The injury, I don't think, I think they were seriously thinking about that. So I would be shocked if he's here all through next year. So kind of we're on the same page with that one. And then this guy is a guy who, yes, he's also up there in age. He's been a little injury prone of late, but I think he's the guy that outside of Gunnar is the lifeblood, and that's Jordan Westberg. I mean, your guy that just got you some money with Homer. And I think of all the young core, he's second most important to me behind Gunnar just because I think he's just a bulldog and overall. And I mean, I think they should extend him. I think they will. But what are your thoughts on Westy?
I've thought that for a while. I think he is he's the cog that makes everything go. We saw what happens when he's out of the lineup. We saw what happens to the defense when he's not in. Everything kind of just falls apart. He just makes everything run so smooth. And I think he's awesome. And we've talked about it with Adley, but he's an older guy too. So again, you don't need to give him a 9-year deal for 300 million or something like that. He is a Boris guy, so that's where that comes into play. But yeah, I would sign him 5 for 150. 6, I don't know, 6 something like that. I would love to do that. And again, he's an older guy. He kind of seems like I've met his parents. I talked to his dad. I talked to his dad about this on opening day at Pickles. I was like, we want him here. He's a beast. He's a stud. And he said he was like he loves it here. He would love to be here. So it seems like this is a spot he wants to be. Again, he plays a damn good third base. He can play second base. Ideally he could play shortstop if you needed him to. But yeah, I think his bat just he just makes the lineup so complete. I would extend him. I think the Orioles absolutely are looking into it. I hope they are. Again, outside of Rodgers, he would be like my circle him, underline him, put a red star, put a gold star, do whatever you need to do. Make sure Jordan Westberg stays an Oriole for a long time.
I would put him second behind Rodgers. Obviously, we're obviously knowing that we would both assign Gunner's the number one right now. Will the Orioles do that? I have no idea because of what he's going to cost. He's going to be the 10-year guy. But I guess thoughts. Do you think the Orioles can get that done? Because he's a Boris guy as well too. Correct?
Yeah. It's him, Jackson, and Westy are the Boris guys. But yeah, I mean, I think they can. I don't know why not. We sports ownership and sports teams, like they can. The Red Sox could have extended Mookie Betts. They said they couldn't. They can. Like it's just if they want to. So that's the thing. It's like I think they absolutely can. I think there is tons of upside to doing it. Whether at the end of the day, also Boris works for Gunner, not the other way around. So like we've seen, I think Altuve signed 2 extensions or maybe 1 in season with his team. And he's a Boris guy too. So it's been done before. It's a tall task, but if Gunner says, hey, this is where I want to be, just make sure the money's right and let's get it done. Why wouldn't the Orioles? What he finished 4th in he won the Rookie of the Year for him, finished 4th in MVP last year. Like, he's not showing any signs of slowing down. The power has gone away a little bit, but I mean, he's batting like 320 since the beginning of July. So yeah, I mean, sign me up. Absolutely. I'd go out and I'd buy a jersey tomorrow. Like I would make it happen. So yeah, I think they can do it if they do it. I don't know, just because that's the big kind of superstars like that, and the price of the brick is going up every day. So I would love to see them get something done before the end of the year. If something is talking, or if it's happening or talking, I don't know, but that's my wishes.
And last one, and great guy, personality, everyone loves him. Does that Orioles, whatever the name of the podcast is called, where it's him, Adley, whoever. Colton Cowser, I mean, we've seen the guy at his best. We've seen him currently at his worst. I don't know what the value is. I mean, great outfielder, but in the hierarchy of people, I would look to trade him if you could get anything for him of substantial value. It might seem bad because he's so popular, but I guess what are your thoughts? What would you do, and what do you think the Orioles will do? I don't know when he's under control till.
What did he come up? 23, I guess. Yeah, so I think he's either 28 or 29. But again, I mean, that's a guy I would keep him. I don't know if I'm extending him right now, just because, again, obviously, I mean, he's not playing great. But again, also, I mean, if he's batting 220 or whatever right now, 9 home runs, like if they look to trade him, they're not going to get much for him, just because, again, like you said, he's not playing that well. Again, I think we have seen him play at his very best, and he is a weapon. When, I mean, his arm has become his arm's always been good and strong, but now it's on target. Like last year, he was throwing, he had some throws where it's like, oh, that's way up the line, or that's way this or that. But now I think this year defensively he's playing very well. Obviously, like I talked about earlier, the hand and the thumb injuries like that, I don't know what that's done to his hitting, but he doesn't look comfortable up there all the time. But again, when he's hot, and that's a guy that I would look to keep. I would assume that the Orioles would too, just because you don't draft a guy 5th overall and then be like, oh no, he's injured, we got to get him out of here. So I don't know. I would hope that they look to keep him too. I don't, I hope that they're not looking to trade him, but again, I don't think they're going to get much back for him right now. But still very young, and a lot of stuff can play out. So we'll see.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap this up in a little bit. And I agree a lot with your sentiments here. And I do think that, I'll be 42 on Thursday. And I wrote an article years ago for southbeamore.com and said the only gift I won for my birthday is in October, and it's the Baltimore Orioles World Series. And they won it when I was 2 months old. Obviously couldn't have any adult beverages at Pickles at that age. Am I going to see it in my lifetime? And at what age will I see it? Over, under 50 years old before I see an Orioles World Series in my lifetime. What do you think?
I'm going under. I'm still going under. I'll carry the water. I'm keeping the faith. I still think, again, I'm hoping that this, like I've said it before, but if the team and the front office and the guys were embarrassed by the last 2 Octobers, how embarrassed are they going to be now when they're going to finish 15 games under 500 and way out of the playoffs? So I'm hoping that, like I said, it backs them into the corner. I hope this is the friend sleeping on the couch that you dump a bucket of water on him and it just kind of like wakes them up and they're like, oh shit. Yeah. You know what? I do have to get my crap. I got to get my stuff in order. Like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go out and do it. So I hope that the guys are going to use this for motivation next year and balls to the wall. They can build off. I'm hoping that they can just kind of have a repeat of 23 and the injury, the injuries stay away for the most part and everything goes right, because man, in 23, everything went right for them until October. It's gone bad in 24 and 25. So I feel like water has to eventually find its level in next year. So I'm not saying they're going to win it next year, but I'm taking the under on that. And I think I think we'll get one here coming up soon in the next couple of years.
That's why Twitter, I always chuckle. People don't realize how bad it used to be. You know, I've seen some bad baseball for half my adult life. Seeing Adam Eaton when I had the Sunday season ticket plan hungover in 98-degree weather with like God knows how much humidity the day after my birthday, and we're down 7-0 in the first inning. And I, you know, as a season ticket holder, I still stayed. You know, we've
Yep.
seen it a lot worse. So, you know, if this is the rock bottom for the next 5 years, I mean, you know, it sucks, but you know, we'll kind of get used to it. So I guess just real quick to wrap up here, maybe one name that you think you want to see as a manager or who will be the Orioles manager next year, and then maybe one free agent that, hey, if the Orioles got that guy, obviously, you know, Aaron, you know, whoever, like there's people
Yeah.
that, but realistic free agent that you think the Orioles could get that would be like, this is a guy that I want, and then who's managing the team next year?
For manager, a guy I want, and this is just because I watch MLB Network all day. I think Mark DeRosa would
Love
be
D-Row.
a lot of fun. I think again Schwarber just pissed on that ball. I know DeRosa doesn't have like big league managing experience. I know he's had some interviews. Obviously, he had the WBC, but he would be awesome. I think he is a great like people person. I think the guys all like, you know, the people around him like him. He would be very fun. I don't know if it's a realistic name or not. But I do think they need like a veteran guy, somebody who has been there before. I'm describing things that DeRosa is not. But you know, I don't know. That's if that he would be a lot of fun. I think so. That would be a good hire for me. And a free agent.
You just mentioned his name as a guy
I was
that I
gonna
want.
say if we're talking about, you know, somebody who would be a lot of fun and they could pay him some money to just hit some home runs, watching Kyle Schwarber continuously just bomb balls off the warehouse would be fucking awesome.
It would be incredible.
That would be fun. I think Alonso would be fun too. Obviously, I think they would move Mountcastle and or Mayo if that's the case. But man, could you imagine if they got either one of those guys? And I don't know what they spend on balls now, but that would have to be they would have to take that budget way, way, way up. So yeah, I don't know. Put me down for one of the NL East. And one of the NL East slugging first baseman, and I'll take either one of them. I'm good with those.
I actually don't think those two would be that unrealistic, to be honest with you. Given, I mean, we know we can spend money. It's just getting the go ahead in there. And I mean, we know the Orioles value home runs, right? They don't value a ton of speed. You know, they don't value a ton of batting average. So both of those guys fit exactly what they're looking for, and they're actually better average hitters than people think they're. So. I would love to actually see them. I mean, Schwarber, I think personality-wise would be better than the polar bear. But yeah, I mean, outside of the fact that they're going to cost me the under here, I don't know what I was doing. But yeah, man. Well, hey, I appreciate the time, man, and you know, like it's nice to chat with someone that kind of understands where we're at, you know, in the Baltimore baseball landscape. And the sky isn't falling. The Orioles will be back. You know, we've seen a lot worse. It could be a lot worse, and you know, just unfortunately got to ride this out now. This will be one of the most significant off seasons in probably the last decade for this team. And if they don't come in and make the splash, you know, I think that could be bad. But again, I'm not a proponent of overspending on pitching, so we'll kind of see what they do to that. But yeah, man, appreciate the time, and hopefully next year, or you know, we're talking, you know, in Orioles World Series here in the not too distant future. So, and you know, you might be last on that person's list, but you're, you know, definitely top 5, you know, on my list. So
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. And
yes,
yeah,
sir.
no, to go back to what you were saying, I texted with Brett Hollander a lot, and in the middle of whatever was going on the whole season, he goes, do people not remember that we went 14 Septembers in a row without meaningful baseball?
Right.
14. That's like, this is one bad year. This is all right. If you want to take it back to last year, all right, sure. It's a bad calendar year. It'll be a bad year and a half. We were 14 years.
We still made the playoffs last year. Yeah.
Yeah, like so I'm right there with you. Obviously, the year is not gone as we wanted, as the front office wanted, as anyone wanted. But like, that's why, like, when I see the people absolutely losing their mind, it's like, brother, I've been there. Like, my college orientation that day was the 30-3 game. Like, I've seen way worse. Like, believe me, it people are like, this is the worst thing ever. No, it's not. It can get worse. We had a decade and a half of this. Straight this. Yeah. We had one first half in 2005, and we were like, we're back, baby. We're back. Yeah. They weren't back. So, yes, I'm right there with you. Again, us older folks, been there, done that. Again, is this the end of the world? No. Does it suck? Yes. But we'll be all right. Like that. That's why I'm not freaking out. And again, especially, with Angelos at the helm. I could see why people, how you could be upset with that, but new ownership and all that, they want to win. They've talked about spending, so now all they got to do is shut up and do it and piss or get off the pot time. So yeah, that's my wrap up. I just wanted to at least get that in there.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely drop some names of the Luis Matos ilk that these people have no idea who they are, and that's who we were trotting out like after a season like this. And Rio Ruiz, remember the Ruiz days where he homered in an empty stadium, started at second base when he had never played there. That's what people don't realize. Like, we can mention names like that all day, and we've seen it and we've lived through it, and we're still alive, and no worse for the wear. So I appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.